What is up, guys? Randomodium here, back with another video. I wanted to discuss the draw for both the play-in groups and the group stage. And I am going to be giving away some Star Guardian Nico skins and chromas at the end of this video, so stick around to the end if you would like to win one of those skins. So for the play-in groups, we've got Mammoth, Clutch Gaming, and Unicorns of Love. I definitely am a Unicorns of Love fan. I love them when they were in the EU LCS, now the LEC. So I'm happy to see them back at an international competition. It's been a while since I've been able to watch their matches. That said, I do think the Clutch is the favorite in this group, but I definitely would give kind of the nod more to New Unicorns of Love to get the second spot over Mammoth. For Group B, we've got Splice, Detonation Focus Me, and Isrus Gaming. So Splice is definitely the favorite coming out of here, and I absolutely love the Japanese team. Just the last season, such an emotional storyline. I definitely got really invested in that team, so I definitely want to see them do well. So I'm definitely going to be rooting for them to get second. Moving on to Group C, this is kind of the weakest of the three groups, in my opinion. Or actually, I shouldn't say the weakest. I should say it's the most volatile of the three groups. Because Hong Kong Attitude coming out of the LMS as a region has been struggling a lot. A lot of their best talent has been taken by the Chinese teams. The LMS just can't compete monetarily, so a lot of their best players are getting sucked with large contracts over to China. So it's going to be really interesting to see whether or not Hong Kong Attitude can kind of reclaim some of LMS's former glory. They're going up against Loki Esports, which, if I remember correctly, is the number 2 team out of Vietnam. So you get this rivalry potentially from a fading power in the LMS and a rising power in Vietnam. So this could be a really interesting storyline that comes out of this group. And then in Group D, we've got Damwon Gaming, number 3 seed coming out of Korea. First time that a Korea number 3 seed has to go into the play-in groups. That's because China has outperformed Korea in the past 2 years. And we've got Flamingo Esports out of Brazil and Royal Youth coming out of Turkey. So Supermassive didn't make it. That was the team that we normally see coming out of Turkey. So I think the Turkey fans may be a little bit split on their representative going to Worlds. But as far as Brazil is concerned, this is the best team coming out of Brazil. This is the team that all the Brazilian fans want. So this is going to be a really interesting group because I think Damwon is probably the best team in this entire play-in group. And I would be surprised if Damwon lost any games during the play-ins. So Flamingo and Royal Youth are really playing for second place, and these two regions are both pretty decent regions. I mean, Brazil and Turkey have definitely created waves in the past, so it's going to be really interesting to see which of these two teams is able to snag that second place spot and get into the play-in knockouts. As far as just like initial predictions, I'd say Clutch, Splice, Damwon definitely all make it through into the group phase. I have no idea who the fourth team is going to be. It's going to be very dependent upon Hong Kong Attitude, and then also just who gets drawn into who. Whoever gets to play the number 1 seed from Group C definitely has a chance to upset. So yeah, we might get a Unicorns of Love, we might get a Flamingo, we might get a Detonation Focus Me, there's a bunch of different teams you can potentially get that potentially upset Hong Kong Attitude and make it into groups. So moving on to the actual main group, Group A, we've got Cloud9, G2, and Griffin. The only team that can slot into this fourth slot is whichever team wins in this Group C, or I guess whoever winds up being on top. It can't be Clutch because Cloud9's already in the group. It can't be Splice because G2's in the group, and it can't be Damwon because Griffin is in the group. So you can't have more than one team from the same region in the same group. So they're going to get probably the weakest of the 4 people who come from the play-ins are going to slot into Group A. So in that case, I think the G2 is definitely the favorite to get first in this group. I would say Griffin has the slight edge at second. Cloud9 is most likely third, but there's a big but there because Cloud9 always shows up for Worlds and Griffin has struggled at times. So if Cloud9 really shows up and Griffin struggles, it could wind up being G2 first, Cloud9 second, Griffin third. But whoever gets slotted in here, I think will most likely get fourth. That's just my initial thoughts. For Group B, we've got Gigabyte Marines, now GAM Esports, Fun Plus Phoenix, which is #1 team coming out of China, and then J Team coming out of the LMS. The only two teams that can slot in here would be Damwon Gaming or Splice. So 50-50 shot, I think probably the better of the two, like as far as just like balancing out the groups, would be Damwon. If Splice gets put in here, then it's going to be kind of a really interesting toss up, and as far as who gets the second seed, it's really going to be really dependent on who shows up. Like Splice could show up and wind up getting #2, or it could be GAM Esports, or it could even be J Team. Like it's completely up in the air. I think the only thing that's guaranteed is that Fun Plus will get the #1 seed coming out of Group B. This is definitely the group of life. Group C, definitely the group of death. Got SKT, Fnatic, and RNG. It's the #1 team out of Korea, #2 team out of Europe, #2 team out of China. All these teams were considered to be like top 5, top 6 to, as far as like power rankings. And one of these 3 teams is not going to make it into the knockout stage. So this is going to be a really exciting group, and what even makes it even more exciting is Clutch Gaming is guaranteed to go into this group, assuming that there aren't any other crazy upsets in the play-in stage. So Huni is going to get his wish. He is going to be going up against SKT and Fnatic, his 2 former teams in the group stage, and Clutch Gaming may be the ones who decide who advances to knockouts. I don't give them a strong chance at making it out of this group, but they may decide who's first, who's second, and who's third. So this is the most exciting group in my opinion, and I'm most excited to watch these games. And I honestly have no idea who's going to make it out. It really depends on who shows up. Fnatic tends to have issues with RNG, but SKT usually beats RNG, and then Fnatic probably can do well into SKT. So that's it's just, yeah, it's insane. I have no idea what's going to happen in Group C. Let me just put it that way. Especially when you throw a Clutch Gaming into the mix, that's just an incredible amount of chaos that's going to be in this group. Group D, AHQ. Team Liquid and Invictus. So this is actually a pretty good draw for Team Liquid, in my opinion. AHQ coming from the LMS, definitely, the region has struggled, as we've said previously, so they're probably happy with that. And then AHQ usually plays pretty standard, which Team Liquid is probably happy with. They're probably happy they got AHQ as opposed to GAM Esports. And then Invictus Gaming. Obviously, Invictus comes in as #3. They did not look near as powerful as they did last season when they won the World Championship. They got beat by Team Liquid in the semifinals at MSI. They struggled a lot during the summer split in the LPL. And I have no idea which Invictus Gaming is going to show up to this tournament. If Invictus Gaming continues to be the way they've been for the past couple months, Team Liquid should get the #1 spot coming out of this group. But if Invictus Gaming wakes up and we get the juggernaut that we saw during the last season, then Team Liquid is in trouble, seriously. Especially if Damwon gets slotted into the #4 spot. So there's a 50-50 shot for Damwon or Splice going into Group B or Group D. So if you get Damwon in this group, this now becomes a kind of actually a potentially very scary group for Team Liquid. If Splice slots in, it's still scary. Splice is a good team, but I do think that Team Liquid would be the favorite over Splice. So yeah, if Damwon gets slotted in here, it makes things a lot more difficult for Team Liquid. So I think Team Liquid is definitely going to be rooting to get Splice in Group D and get Damwon in Group B. And I actually think that would probably be for the best, because it would ensure that you get kind of probably the most likely some of the best teams at least making into groups. If you have Splice here, then like Fnatic could wind up missing groups or knockouts, and then Splice could make it, which is just weird, but that's how it is sometimes at Worlds. And that kind of leads me into my next point, is that a lot of people really don't like the way that they do this Worlds format. This whole random draws into a group stage with these huge pools. Like the pool 2 is just massive, and the skill discrepancy from the top pool 2 teams to the bottom pool 2 teams is just kind of absurd when you think about it. That they're considered to be in the same group, which is why you get these type of things like Group C, which is a group of death. I don't know if you can really fix the pools that easily, because you're going to wind up like offending people, and you're going to constantly having to be restructuring it depending on which region's looking more powerful at what time, and it's going to be a mess if they try to like break it into more groups than it already is, more pools than it already is. So I think the alternative would be that instead of having the top 2 teams make it out of group stage, you have the top 3 teams make it out of group stage, and then the number 2 and number 3 teams get randomly reassigned into basically like a round of 16, kind of similar to like the play-in knockout stage, where the number 2 and the number 3 teams from each group play against each other randomized in a best of 5. So you potentially have the number 3 team from Group C going up against the number 2 team from Group B. And then whoever wins that winds up going up against the first place team from one of the groups in the quarterfinals. So this would incentivize teams to get first even more than it already does. And then number 2, it would allow these group of death type things where it would make it so that it would be more balanced in the fact that you only need to get, third. You don't have to get second, and you still have a chance in the best of 5 against a potentially weaker group number 2 seed. So I think you would wind up getting a higher quality of teams making it into the knockout stage if you had this format. It would also increase the tension. It would build the storylines more. I don't see any real negatives to going to this type of a format, besides the fact that you would extend the broadcast by probably 2 days, because you would have to run 2 best of 5s per day. You'd have to run 4 additional best of 5s. You potentially cut it down to a best of 3, and then I'll run all 4 of them in one day, but that'd be kind of a really long day. I think a best of 5 would probably be better, especially since the play-in knockouts are a best of 5. But yeah, that's the only downside I see to this system. I think people would really enjoy it a lot more. People would be more involved in Worlds, because there'd be a higher likelihood that their team, their favorite team, would make it out of the group stage into the knockout stage. And it would still kind of preserve teams wanting to go for that number 1 spot. It wouldn't be like people would be giving up the advantage of being the number 1 team. And there would still be an advantage for the number 2 team, because you'd be going up against a number 3 team rather than another number 2 team. So overall, I think all in all, this would be a much better system. I definitely want to hear what your guys' comments are in the bottom, like what type of pros and cons do you see to going to this type of a method. And then additionally, I've got 3 questions that you guys can answer to get the Star Guarding and Nico and Green Chroma. So the first one would be, who's your favorite to win Worlds and why? Why is the most important part, of course, so always include why. The second one is who's your dark horse? Who's your dark horse to make it out of play-ins or to make it out of groups? I want to hear those dark horse stories, and I want you to convince me why they're the dark horse, why I should bet money on them to make it out of either the play-in groups or the main draw groups. And then the third question, of course, is you can always just ask me a random question for my 20,000 subscriber AMA. And that can be any topic. It can be league related, it can be non-league related, you can talk about my Navy experience, you talk about what job I do now, personal life. I don't really care. As long as it's not too crazy, I have no problems answering it. Can't really think of any topic that I would consider off limits besides maybe like classified information, but that's it. So yeah, any question you want to ask is fair game for that 20,000 subscriber AMA, and we're really close to 20,000. We're at 19,000 and change, so definitely ask your questions now, and I'll try to make sure that I answer them. So yeah, those are the 3 ways that you can win the Chroma. You can tell me who your favorite is at Worlds. You can tell me who your dark horse is, or you can ask me a question. And I would really appreciate feedback on what you guys think of my proposed changes to how they do the group phase of the World Championships, potentially for next year, something like that. So yeah, definitely want to thank you guys for supporting me. I know I haven't done a lot of videos recently. Work has been absolutely insane. They've been swapping my role around. I have a lot more responsibility, even more than I did previously, and I've been working a lot of crazy hours. But I'm hoping things will calm down eventually, and I'll be able to do more videos. I have a lot of videos in my head. I've been working on a lot of scripts in kind of my spare time. So I'm hoping I can start busting out a bunch of videos around the holidays, give you guys a nice holiday gift for the new year and things like that. And yeah, hope you guys have a fantastic day. This is Randomonium signing off.